50s and above. Big problem. So a year ago or so, somebody came up to one of the clients that I work with over the phone. They called, and we sometimes recommend some nutrient complexes that will help with the cardiovascular system, things that help blood flow, things that improve your health. Of course, we do that in conjunction with whatever their doctors are giving them, either for hypertension, diabetes, high triglycerides, high fat, and all those. So we recommend that because drugs don't necessarily heal or address damage to the blood vessels, but nutrients can. The body can using nutrients. Anyway, so the long and short of the story is that he calls me after using this nutrient complex for a couple of months, and he says, "Listen, can I have some more of that stuff?" And he says, "Well, my wife asked me to get more of that stuff." when he said that, I'm like, "Your wife? What does your wife have to do with this? Are we talking about your body?" And so I kind of probed and pressed, and finally he admitted. He's like, sex is getting better, and his wife is really enjoying the sex. And in my mind, I was like, well, that poor woman, she's probably been living with this problem for years and didn't know what to say about it. But it's almost like he began to get his life back, and he and she began to get enjoy intimacy together again for maybe first time in a long time. So, and then after that, over and over again, I've been hearing that same story that, well, you know what? I mean, I used to have these chest pains before, and I used to be tired all the time, and that's improving. But in addition, these men will come back and say, well, they're having longer erections, they can have sex for a longer period of time, and they're not as tired, they can go several rounds. So, and I knew this to some extent, that obviously if you improve blood flow, everything improves. If you improve blood flow, your brain, you think better, you sleep better. Of course, you have more energy. You're able to, perform better, think better. So, but it was never really a big issue. It never really came to my consciousness until these men started coming back to it with me about this thing with where it affects your sex life. So that got me thinking, and it's like we felt we really should address this, and different men too have been telling me we need to address this whole male epidemic, because there are lots and lots and lots of men who are having this issue of not being able to perform sexually as they would love to, and that's a problem, because it can affect your confidence, affect your self-esteem. And think about the man that I mentioned earlier on. Somehow things because that aspect wasn't taken care of, things with his wife in other areas may not have been going well as well. So it's not just for the sake of having sex, it's also for other reasons as well. So let's kind of look at it in greater detail. Look at this. Well, I did say this is going to be like PG-13, right? So if you have kids in the house, just ask them to go to bed or somewhere. Essentially, let's talk about blood flow. Oh, you know what? Let's start with this. There are three major conditions. There are three major things that affect sexual prowess. There are three things. One is your cardiovascular system, so obviously blood flow. Two are your hormones, and we'll get to that in a minute. And the third is your mind, and the term is psychogenic, and we'll get to that as well. Let's start with the cardiovascular system. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean this off. So your cardiovascular system obviously starts with the heart. So this is going to be like heart. Blood comes out of the heart and it goes to, we've talked about this before, it goes to the heart. The heart's first priority is to supply itself. So the heart must have blood flow to itself. And if you look at the anatomy of the heart and the blood vessels, the first blood vessel that comes out of the heart goes back to itself. Secondly, of course, the brain. So blood has to go to the brain. Your brain can't go for more than 4 minutes without adequate blood flow. Other aspects, of course, are the lungs, the kidneys, and all that. But what people tend to forget is that your organs, private parts, also need to have adequate blood flow. So if there's any disease, if blood flow anywhere is compromised, it'll be compromised to everywhere. Just remember this. Sometimes it's random, but if your blood flow is not optimal, it will affect not just your heart, your brain, your kidneys, and your lungs. It will also affect your ability to perform in bed. And of course, we know that there are certain things that affects the health of the arteries. We know hypertension is a problem. We know diabetes is a problem. We also know that things like other kind of diseases, cancer and other kind of conditions can also affect, and sickle cell disease, by the way, half of all boys born with sickle cell disease are pretty much impotent, unfortunately, and that's why we're so interested in targeting that. So the important thing is this: you want to ensure that this blood flow, the lining of the blood vessels are maintained and healthy. And I'm going to tell you about that in the next segment. We're going to really talk about what, again, is used to improve the lining and health of the blood vessels. Be right back. Welcome back to Your Health in Your Hands. Let's get right back to it. Whatever affects this will affect this. If you remember in our last discussions, and if of course you can go back to all the archived videos, you can see when we talk about cardiovascular health. I cannot really go into that now because there's not enough time. But the lining of the arteries and the vessels as a whole produce a gas called NO, nitric oxide. This is the most important gas that your blood vessels need for to be healthy, and it is produced again by the lining of the blood vessels. If you have enough of nitric oxide, what happens is that you are more likely to have cleaner, healthier blood vessels, and also the blood vessels are more likely to relax. So nitric oxide, one of the key things that nitric oxide does is that it relaxes the blood vessels, so less blood flow. So if you think about that, you think about it with regards to the penis. For the penis to have a sustained erection, the blood vessels in the cavernosa, that's a special part of the penis, the blood vessels have to relax to allow blood flow from the heart. If they relax enough, they will get filled, and so blood flow will not get into it, and then it gets hardened enough. If they don't relax, they don't get enough, and a lot of that has to do with nitric oxide. Now, if you remember, in our past discussions, we've talked about how we black people, again, and don't shoot me because I'm just the messenger. I'm just the messenger. If you have a problem with what I'm saying, go take it up with your maker. Because it is a fact, and they've done study after study after study, especially in countries where you have a significant black population, at different strata of society, from low income to high income, coexisting with white people. So, of course, in the United States, of course, in the United Kingdom. I haven't seen much studies in France because there's quite a few blacks are in France, but South Africa. Those three countries, they find out when they compare and contrast the levels of nitric oxide in black people versus levels of nitric oxide in white people. Again, across the strata, low income, high income, people who exercise, people who don't exercise, they find out consistently that black people produce less nitric oxide. And that's bad news, yes, but also it's good for you to know about this so that you can begin to figure out ways to boost your nitric oxide. And we'll go into a few of them in this session, in this program. So back to that. Once we can improve nitric oxide, you can improve blood flow. A lot of conditions are due to low nitric oxide, and how that affects things adversely. All right, so I'm going to quickly clean this up, because it's not just about blood flow, although blood flow is a significant aspect of it. It's also about other things as well. So the next thing, we are going to talk about is your hormonal health. Hormones. And of course, the most important hormone when it comes to sexual dysfunction or sexual performance or erectile dysfunction is testosterone, which is the men how do you spell this again? Testosterone. Goodness, let's just call it T. T. You know what I'm talking about? Testosterone. Testosterone has been used for several conditions. It's important to boost health. Testosterone is very important to boost health. Is to boost people who have men who have more testosterone tend to be go-getters. They tend to be more aggressive. They tend to be very competitive. They tend to have a lot of energy. People who have low testosterone, well, you know what I'm talking about. And it affects your posture and even your well-being and the way people see you as well. And of course, high testosterone levels mean that you have better erections and better sex as well. It also affects the production of good sperm in your body. If you have low testosterone, your sperms may not be as, virile and as powerful as they should be. So testosterone levels, what we know is that if you have low testosterone levels, your sexual performance will be affected. And things like stress, things like diabetes, things like sickle cell disease, things like the common conditions, the common the usual suspects, all affect your levels of testosterone. Again, in the next segment, we'll kind of look at the things that you can do to boost testosterone levels. Other things you want to think about too are oxytocin, estrogen, prednisolone. We'll get into that later. But testosterone levels need to be boosted. So we'll get back with you in the next segment. Thanks. Okay, welcome back. So one of the complaints that I've heard a couple of times has been, well, you know what? These are people in their 50s and 60s. With my spouse, my wife, I don't really get it up as much, but with someone else, a casual acquaintance and all that, it comes up easily. So it's not just a question of blood flow or testosterone levels, it's a question of the mind, what's going on in the mind. And sometimes when I hear this in my mind, I'm thinking, man, you probably don't need a doctor. You may need a priest one of these days, because if your wife hears about this, you may need someone to perform the final rites, the last rites on your life, So, but anyway, people are very, very, very forgiving. So maybe it's not as serious as that. So that brings us to the third aspect, which is the psychogenic aspect, which has to do with your attraction. And that again has to do with the brain and the mind and how that translates down to the nerves, because the penis is also affected by the nerve stimulation. And that's a different topic for a different day. I would say if you have that issue, you need to talk to a psychologist or a marriage counselor, someone that can help you spice up your marriage life, so that you can, because your wife needs you, so you can have a decent sex life with your wife, because that affects, as you very well may know, that affects a lot of different things. So it's very important that you try and get that aspect of your life taken care of. In this segment, we're going to talk about how to improve your sex life by improving some of the things that we talked about. Improving your blood flow, improving your hormonal health. Because, anyway, let's get into it. If you remember some of our other segments, we've talked about the laws of life, and there are about 7. So let's go over them really quickly. Number 1, the quality of your life is determined by the words that you speak, hear, and read. Number 2, by the beliefs you hold dear. They could be religious beliefs, they could be personal beliefs, they could be community beliefs, cultural beliefs. Number 3, by the thoughts and emotions that are running through your mind. Number 4, by what you put, the quality of what you put in your mouth, whether it's foods, drinks, illicit drugs, whatever. Number 5, the quality of care that you give your body. So your health is affected by the quality of care you give your body. That includes sleep, that includes exercise, that includes sex. Number 6, by the quality of your relationships. And then there's a lot of research coming out in these days about how good long-term relationships are really good for your overall health. And number 7, by the quality of your work, how your work affects your health and affects your life. And think about this. What we know is that lots of heart attacks happen the first early hours of Monday morning. Yeah, Monday morning. And that's a different story, different topic for another time, but very, very important. Your satisfaction at work can have a huge impact on your health. And of course, it can have a huge impact on your sex life. Because if you're not happy at work, men especially tend to take it back home, take it on their wives, on their kids, and on their pets if they have any, and even on the television and the TV and the fridge and whatever it is. So all of these 7 laws are extremely important for your overall health, but also they apply to your sexual health as well. So we're going to go into them, some more than others. So I'm going to just point to them specifically. All right. So words, I'm just going to quickly go through this one. Words are extremely important. You can't go around saying I can't get it up. You can't go around telling everybody that you have sexual problems, not just for privacy reasons, but also it has an effect on how you perform. The more you speak negative words, the more negative things happen to your body, depending on what you say about your body. So just leave it between you and your doctor and a few other people, but don't keep saying it, and don't start thinking about that too as well. Your beliefs are important. You know what? We don't have as much time, so I'm just going to quickly jump to what I feel are the most important things. Food, what you put in your mouth. Now, or let's say what you put in your mouth. Now, here's the thing. Your doctor is going to prescribe drugs, may prescribe supplements, may prescribe different things. And what we say is that always go by what your doctor says. You might need to do some things in addition, because some things your doctor will not talk about. So the top things that help to boost blood flow and also help to boost testosterone, one of them is vitamin D3. We've talked about that before. Another is, well, things that help to produce or boost nitric oxide. Vitamin D3, by the way, helps to boost nitric oxide as well. You might need to get supplements for this. But when it comes to nitric oxide, there are about 4 or 5 things that probably really help more and that you can get in the market. They all start with the letter G. So one of them is ginger. One of them is garlic. One of them is ginseng. You've probably heard of ginseng before. Ginseng is particularly important for blood flow. And the other one is green tea. There's a 5th one called ginkgo biloba, which is also very, very important. I think you should do some studies about this, because you have to. There are specific doses that can really help to boost these things. So, ginger, garlic, ginseng, green tea, ginkgo biloba. They all help to boost nitric oxide production. If you're thinking about a supplement that helps to boost nitric oxide, again, the studies reveal that this amino acid, I'm going to just clean this off. Amino acids, and we've talked about this extensively. That's why I say keep going. That's why I keep saying go back to the archives. There's this amino acid called L-arginine, another one called L-citrulline. Standard research says that you need about 5 grams a day. This is in the public domain. You need 5 grams a day of L-arginine. You do not want, I'm going to emphasize this, you do not want L-arginine alone. It's not going to work. You need it in combination with several things, and that's part of the nutrient complex that I was talking about. You need something, you need the omega-3s, you need vitamin D3. These all work synergistically with L-arginine and L-citrulline. You need some magnesium. Magnesium, by the way, also helps to relax the blood vessels so that blood can flow better. What else do we need? Vitamin C. You need some vitamin C. I know this is a lot, and I would strongly recommend that you don't just buy all these separately. There are some nutrient complexes that have all these different things together, and their goal again is to boost nitric oxide. The goal of all these things is to boost nitric oxide. They also, what we now know is that in boosting nitric oxide, we found out a one-to-one correlation, a direct correlation between high levels of nitric oxide and testosterone levels. So you can actually kill two birds with one stone. If you boost nitric oxide, you can also help to boost your testosterone levels. And don't forget, we didn't have time to go into this, but the other laws of life, your sleep, your exercise also helps to boost nitric oxide, your relaxation, avoiding stress, enjoying your work better, having deep relationships with your significant others also play a huge role. So again, this is probably, we need more time for this. We'll probably go into this at greater detail in other programs, sending your questions. But at this point, I'm going to say thank you for staying with us. Thank you for joining us. And we will see you next time.